Yes, you can buy a house with zero down in 2025. Hey, my name is Team Lamm. I'm a mortgage lender of 22 years based out of California. In this video, I'm going to talk about some of the ways a first-time buyer can enter the market with no money out of pocket in 2025. Despite what you've heard about the housing market, we're going to dive into it. If you like this video or find any value, please make sure to like, subscribe, and let's jump in. Now, the first thing I want to ask is, why would you want to buy a house with no money down or less money down? Especially when you have guys like Dave Ramsey saying, don't buy a house until you save 20% for your down payment. Now, 20% down would be great. And if someone can save $100,000 and put it down, that could be a good decision. But what about everybody else? What are the pros and cons of entering the housing market earlier than maybe you would because you had a certain down payment goal that you wanted to put down and you're not there yet and you know it's going to take you some time to get there? The first thing I want to do is tell you a couple stories about home buyers I know who entered the market with no money down over the last couple years. The first couple we'll call Bob and Susie. Bob and Susie came to me and said, we would like to buy a house, but we would like to put about $50,000 down. And right now we only have about 20, but we want to get educated on the process as early as possible. Now, first and foremost, great job, Bob and Susie, because I believe that people that want to buy a house should start talking about it and getting educated as early as possible. High school, if possible. But Bob and Susie ended up looking at some programs and they ended up pulling the trigger and buying a house. Now, if we look at where Bobby and Susie are today, they have a house, and I just checked it, they have an estimated value of around $500,000. They bought their house for about $380,000, so they're literally sitting on about $120,000 of equity, and they've been able to take advantage of a tax write-off on the interest and all the other benefits of buying a home because they decided to buy early. Now, one of the crazy things about what they did as they were first-time home buyers is instead of putting $20,000 down, they used a zero down program and they saved the cash that they had so that they could buy furniture, paint the house, and be in a really good position to have some reserves in their bank account. Side note, if you ever talk to a mortgage lender who thinks it's okay for you to buy a house with no money in your bank account when you close, make sure you run. Now, here's the thing about Bob and Susie. If they would have waited till they had 20% down at the rate of savings that they were on, it would have taken them about 3 to 5 years, then they would have missed out on $120,000 of appreciation just so that they could have put $100,000 down. That would have been a really bad idea. Now, let's talk about the downside of putting less money down. Now, the reality is the less money you put down, the higher your mortgage payment and the more risk you're going to take. For example, if you were to buy a house and put no money down today and that house was worth less money next year and you needed to sell your home, you may not have enough equity to even pay a real estate agent to sell that property. And these are things you have to think about. So when you're buying a house, you're looking at putting less money down, you really need to plan on that being a 5 to 10 year home. If anybody came to me and said, we want to buy a house, but we're planning on selling it in 3 years, the first thing I'm going to tell them is you should keep renting. Real estate is a long-term hold. And if you're not going to hold real estate for at least 5 years in this market, it's probably not a great idea. Now, let's get into some of the products that you will be looking at if you were to talk to a mortgage lender in 2025 and you want to put less than 20% down. Now, in most states, there are grants, bonds, and programs that will give you either a gift towards the down payment or they will give you what's called a silent second, which is basically borrowed money so that you don't have to come to the table with any down payment at all. Now, some of these programs are going to have different requirements for credit scores, income. Some of them will require your income to be in the low to moderate income category, but there are programs for almost any first-time buyer in any state in America where you can right now get into a house with no money out of pocket. Now, 2 other products I want to add are the VA loan and USDA. These programs have been around forever, and if you're a veteran, a VA loan is a way for you to get into a house with no down payment, no mortgage insurance, and this is going to have lower rates than most other programs. So for the vet, there really only is one way to buy a house, and that's through VA. But if you're not a veteran, you can look at USDA, which is literally the Department of Agriculture. They have a rural loan that as long as you're buying a house outside of city limits, in most markets, you can also buy a home with zero down. And this would be a program that you're going to want to look at if you're getting pre-approved to buy your first home. Now, what if you're not a first-time buyer and you sold a house maybe a couple years back and you have a little bit of money to put down, but you still don't have that 20%, the first thing you need to know is with most programs that are out there today, a first-time buyer by definition is someone who has not owned a home in 2 years or more. So this is actually pretty liberal if you think about it. You can be a first-time buyer even if you owned a home 3 years ago. But everyone else can still take advantage of some really great programs. Through Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, there are programs with as little as 3% down, or FHA with a down payment of 3.5%. Now, these are obviously not zero down, but for the average house in America, someone can get into a home if they've owned a home before with 3 to 5% down pretty easily. So if you're watching this video and you've been researching how to buy a house in 2025, this is how you can do it with zero down. The first step you're gonna wanna do is talk to a mortgage lender. You're gonna wanna talk to a real estate agent and find out about the market you live in, learn about the different areas, and you're gonna wanna go through a pre-approval process. And when you talk to a lender, make sure they're showing you all options available. Hey, if you got any value out of this video, please leave a comment or question below. I do check them. And thank you so much for watching this video.